who my eyes are on as well, and maybe Annie, because Annie's a mainstay, has been around for a long time. But it looks like Rensga might agree with you because Aphilio's banned straight away targeting Beanie here.
Yeah, we are just straight into the draft this time. We're not taking as much time right now. We were mentioning maybe that the time is a little bit compressed because of our pre-game shenanigans here. So the teams actually are taking their sweet time with the bans here. Aphelios and Galio. Even Akali taken away. Oh, I'm so sad, RMC. I'm so sad.
Yeah, we are going to see that again. Sensible bans. I like to see them coming through here. And Galio, I mean, that's solid. Pantheon, Akali. So a lot of just power picks being kind of banned away here. And the Volibear coming out against Furia. Interesting choice that they decided to do that.
Yeah, we saw a Volibear. I believe it was a hover in the last game there. So maybe locally, at least, things have been maybe a little bit Volibear favored recently. I do know that CBLOL has had its own pro in-houses recently that maybe maybe developing a little bit of a meta. That being said, Camille, I would not be surprised to be part of that meta because she is strong everywhere right now and is the first pick for Rensga.
Yeah, and we are talking about that carry top laner. We just said take carried, and it was on the Camille as well. They're neither side prioritizing the jungle at all, which is super surprising to me. When we see the Renekton and Camille matchup, two carries, the top lane gets heavily influenced by the jungle here. And we already saw what happened with the Talia. You can do similar things with the Nidalee. I mean, that was the meta going to Worlds 2020 as well. Graves pairs up great as well, a lot of damage. And instead, they opt for a blind pick Samara. And when Leona is on the table, Nautilus on the table, Alistair's on the table, that's very risky because that wind wall, that blade roll does not stop melee stuns from coming through.
No, it doesn't. And right now, I'm a little bit concerned for Rensga, though, even though we know that Beanie's going to be under a lot of threat because they don't actually have their ADC yet. And the ADC pool is
Mhm.
already quite pinched with Kaisa, Aphelios, and Samira being taken away.
Yeah, I mean, Jin's on the table as well. It probably will get banned in the
Yeah, will
second
it be?
rotation. I'd be surprised if they don't. I mean, you might as well chop off all the ADCs, that you can there, force Trigo on slightly weird picks. And like I mentioned, I'm not super familiar with this Rensga roster. I'm Frost Strike, I'm not familiar with how well they play Trigo and Cleon as well. We did see Rensga play back, in 2020 after they confirmed their spot in the CBLOL in that Liga loading tournament. And they actually
Mm.
played against Furia Esports. Then Furia Esports beat them in that Liga loading tournament 2-0. So perhaps the roster swaps here are also partially because the other roster did not perform well against Furia. We are seeing the mid lane pick up. So again, no junglers for Furia picked up at all.
I need to talk about this. The Twisted Fate ban here for Furia. Is so you talked about it before. If we get a Nidalee, you're expected to see Twisted Fate. God dang, Furia is on it, taking that away. I'm so happy to see it. And they actually choose not to ban any ADCs, opting for the Yone instead. Now, Yone I haven't seen in competitive play yet.
Okay, so Yone right now, a lot of people are screaming about him. Once he picks up, an immortal shield bow, with the bloodthirster, he becomes nigh unkillable. His laning phase becomes insufferable, and he can do a lot of damage in the fights. Perks actually tried playing it last night in the LCS, did not go well for him. So I'm not super high on the Yone train, but I think it's a solid ban. Again, you just don't want to pair anything with hard CC and a lot of damage with that Nidalee. But yeah, not banning Jin, I think, might come back to bite them because Jin does a lot of damage, does really well as well, is meta for a reason, and you're just giving it for free to Renska. You're not punishing as well. You know what? Renska doesn't care about Jin either. I guess my research wasn't proper because I didn't expect Trigo, and maybe Trigo doesn't play Jin. Instead, he's looking for the Callista Alistair combo potentially. I thought that was really solid,
Yeah,
but
let's hold on it a little bit
I'm
because I
getting
do
trolled
think
so hard by Trigo right now.
I think they've been hanging out with the hovers a little bit too long. What we do know is that you'll be playing
There we
into
go.
the Leona Samira, and now we've got a Jin and Alistair. So I'm not actually sure who comes away the more powerful lane. I'm leaning towards Jin Alistair.
Yeah, Jin Alistair gets better poke and better sort of extended laning against the Samira Leona. But Samira Leona, if they can find the engage, they will win the all-ins here. So it forces Furia to play a lot more aggressively with that Leona, which is not what you want to do against an Alistar here. So I actually prefer the Jin Alistar matchup as long as Trigo doesn't get caught. Their lineup here, Victor, Nidalee, Camille, all their sort of solo lanes in their jungle, the top side of the map is looking kind of scary, though. A lot of damage to the table. And as expected, the Talia comes through. And last pick Talia. This draft
Hmm.
phase has gone. The picks are about what I expected, but the order they came in is very, very odd to me.
I mean, as much as you're surprised by Talia coming in last pick, I'm surprised that Victor gets picked up at all for Rensga. Because he doesn't provide the global pressure that things like Galio or Twisted Fate would. So, what are they trying to do? What's their sort of pivot here into the Victor?
So I feel like Rensga's composition here is more of a bit of a kite back composition, a poke composition. You've got the Jin, you've got the Nidoii. You can afford to sort of poke from the distance there, get the damage down from afar. You don't have to look for the engage. Victor is there for the counter engage. You put down that gravity well, and suddenly it becomes very difficult for Renekton, for Samira, for Leona to get in there and effectively do a lot of damage. So it's more of a defensive composition. Whereas when you look at Furia, their comp is just a straight go in composition right away there. Talia maybe trying to isolate a target. You've got a Leona, you've got a Renekton, you've got a Samira. That's all the go buttons you need. So Renska reacting a little bit, and I think that Victor is more of a reactive pick than anything else. So a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but unfortunately, we already saw in game one what happens if you don't really all in on a composition here. Having a very clear identity is a strength, and so I think Furia has drafted themselves a very, very clear identity.
Yeah, we finally moved to game two here, where I was noticing in game one all the bands were at 100% presence because where else would they be? We finally moved into game two, where we get a little bit of diversity here, and the stats can really start taking shape. I like what you mentioned though: the burst damage, the pick potential gets answered by sort of drop it and go mid lane, or somebody who can play around the sides of fights here. So this is going to be another game where I'm expecting side lanes to become very important because when you have Camille, you have Victor, you do have very strong scaling side lanes that eventually I don't see the answer to for Furia.
Yeah, Renekton is known to be really, really strong early game, but does fall off towards the late. So expecting to see a lot of ganks really early. And last game I said that I was expecting Talia ganks to come in level 6. With the Renekton in the top side, I'm expecting to see a lot more pressure into the side lanes, into the Leona, into the Renekton pre-6 here. Because Follow has a ton of potential ganks here with the point and click CC. And because they've identified that, you're seeing, Frost Strike play aggressively right off the bat.
Oh yeah, Skeeto taking a big chunk right now. Should not go down. Has the safety of his tower and no ignite available for Rensga.
Oh.
The spear just going wide there. I like to think it would have been lethal because the drama that adds to the situation is big. And actually, just by hanging around, he delays the recall by just a little bit longer. Does Frost Strike? It gives Furia the ability to invade for an early ward though, keeping an eye on where this Nidalee will be.
Yeah, more importantly, it's giving topside control over the side of Renska. So we might actually see vertical jungling right off the bat. And I think that's why, we're seeing the early wards come down from the bot lanes of Renska here because they want to be able to track if Follow does opt to try and do that. Instead, Follow is still looking for the top side, but there is a ward. So they will get spotted if they come in there.
Yeah, I'm kind of nervous right now. Damage is not in the bot lane, so they're straight up contesting this. And House and
Yeah.
Annie are going at it in the mid lane. It looks like Froststrike is actually going to be forced all the way back to his own jungle, which hurts quite a bit as an Italy.
Yeah, that's a great reaction from Furia to send damage there. It is going to cost Beanie in the bot lane. Beanie will get shoved in, but I think that one wave, giving the experience to Beanie, even if he loses the gold for one wave, is a worthwhile trade because Frost Strike, again, like you mentioned, has to walk all the way back in the jungle, doesn't even get a leash because Chiari can't afford to give up all that time, and Follow does not lose the buff. So Furia really, coming out the winners despite having Skeeto getting hammered so early on in lane.
Yeah, and I've got to ask you a question too, because we did just see the runes come in for a moment. Can you talk to me a little bit about why it is that Trigo has picked up the fleet footwork?
Because Trigo is also opting into not wanting to all in. Fleet Footwork is a sustain rune.
Mm.
It's a rune that you kind of run, when you want to stay in lane, you want to outlast, outpoke the enemy a little bit. So Trigo recognizing that very few ADCs ever beat a Samira in an all in at any stage of the game. So he doesn't want to actually fight that. He just wants to poke and heal up and sustain that way, trusting on Cleon to try and keep damage off of him as well. So really solid choice if he plays it right. And naturally, all pro players are going to assume they're going to play it right. So safe assumption, a good assumption to make for now. I am gonna be watching Follow though, because I feel like if Follow shows up in the bot lane, that fleet footwork isn't gonna save you.
Yeah, and right now you got to be careful of that as Rensga because Follow just got spotted in the river clearing out that ward. You know that he's around, but there's another ward waiting in the wings for him should he choose to route down to the bot side of the map. Right now, we'll just choose to clear out the Scuttle Crab, and with Nidalee on the bottom side as well, there's the potential for a double Scuttle.
Yeah, the ward is gonna spot out Follow though, so they will be able to track where that is. And Kiari actually already roaming out of lane, winning that top lane really heavily. So is safe to be able to try and roam out here against Annie.
This is a little bit of an iffy gank,
Oh,
but
Frost
Annie
Strike's coming
walking
too.
up here. The flash comes in, and Annie does
Oh,
manage to take the chunk, but Frost Strike missing the Q. Oi, it's tough because those are crucial, but you can't blame him. That was rough.
no, and that's what I want to see, and that's what I'm expecting to see from Rensga here. Like I said, they're a plucky team. This was how they used to play in BRCC. A lot of risky sort of early game plays, a lot of coin flips, and it usually works out for them because they're confident with it. But now in the CBLOL, when they're playing against mechanically better players, it's the risk is higher there, and the payoff may be not worth it.
And we're going to take this coin flip one more time, and it's not going to go in Kiari's favor. It comes up tails for him, and First Blood goes over to Annie, even forcing the flash out of house right now. And if we look across the board, the entire top side of the map, flashless and now top lanerless.
Yeah, and all of that really got started not by Furia, but more by Renska trying to make action happen. Like I said, I appreciate it, but it's kind of risky. And this was kind of the issue that they had in that Liga loading tournament where they faced Furia. They made early plays and it worked ish, but Furia is experienced and they can just soak up the pressure here, or at least Annie and Damage certainly can. And now they know how to push a lead.
Yeah,
This is what happens when you fall behind. They're just going to throw everything in the kitchen sink at you. Kiari teleported back to lane, but it's being completely zoned up. If he steps into EXP range, he could just get destroyed here.
the recalls are channeled here. Surprisingly, I was expecting them to go for that dive no matter what. Even Damage, who has shown up in the top lane, tanking a little bit himself. And I expect it's because Cleon finally had the chance to roam
Mhm.
up, but Furia really getting away with a lot of denial there. And that's actually something that throws back to not the way that CBLOL did at Worlds, but just Worlds in general. I very much remember XP denial being a huge factor in some of the finals games, and I like that Furia choose to abuse that way into a game here.
Yeah, 100%. It's almost always in the top lane as well. So
Hmm.
it's great because it allows Guido to try and catch back up a little bit. He did fall quite far behind early, and you can already see he's picking up those steel plated caps real early here. It's his second item pickup after the Duran shield. So he's obviously struggling a little bit in lane. We're not going to see that scary croc immediately necessarily. Oh,
Cleon,
good
thank
flash away from Cleon.
God he got that flash off in time. I was really worried about that for a second there. And Trigo is going to be able to walk him back to lane. Double Dorans, though, picked up on the other side of the matchup for Kiari in the top side. That's pretty aggressive for a top laner. We didn't even see that last game, just sort of trusting in the Camille. This time, it is very much a brute force win top side.
Yeah, so you can already see that the win con for Rensga, they're looking for that split push Camille. This is not the Camille that's going to be, forcing ganks or looking for team fights, isolating the enemy target. This is the Camille that kind of just wants to do their own thing, win the 1v1, and just drag somebody to fight him each and every single time. And it's not been working out so far because of the attention that Follow's been throwing down. And Follow should be sick soon. And if you thought that the Talia counter ganks and ganks were already scary and stopping a lot of aggression for the side of Renska. Well, we've seen what happens once they're level 6. That Weaver's Wall means that you'll never be alone. And because Follow's a jungler and not a laner, it's going to be doubly hard trying to track where on earth that Weaver's Wall could be coming from.
Yeah, when you can really fight without backup starts to narrow down to just the cooldown of Weaver's Wall, maybe, because damage hasn't been staying in lane either, and I think you kind of start to rely on the Victor a little bit for that guaranteed win in the late game, because of course Camille is going to scale up quite nicely, but if she's even with the Renekton, it's going to take time. Victor right now is the one that needs to be getting CS.
Yeah, and Victor's been doing pretty well. House, has been doing decently in lane, roaming out to try and help his allies. But Annie got that first blood, and that evens up a lot of any, or not really evens up, gives the edge really over to the side of Fury here. So they're kind of winning every single lane. Skeeto's doing well on the top lane, and bot side, you mentioned damage roaming. It's doubly important now because if the supports are roaming out, both of them, it's actually Trigo who has to be super careful because if Beanie goes in, that's
Mm.
probably going to be a kill. The Samira can 1v1 a Jin any day of the week here.
This is risky. I'm sweating. Oh my lord! Frost Strike with the sixth sense. There are no wards in that top side.
I think the sweepers caught each other. I think maybe so they kind of knew where both junglers were, but either way, yeah, it was a good escape. Frost Strike's kind of getting punished a little bit because with losing lanes, the jungles are now able to punish, and follow is six.
Yeah, Frost Strike is the one that I am looking for
There we
to
go.
make plays here, but Follow is going to be able to respond to them very, very well, forcing him out there, even threatening the kill. And being behind in CS right now is the Nidalee. Behind in kill participation, even if it's by a little bit,
Oh,
needs to fix that and goes in on Follow there. A very nice flash to buy space.
and
Frost
he's
Strike
here.
needs to get out one more time. Does Kiari go down for his
Oh,
sins, though? The sombrero happens and doesn't get a kill there. Jin is roamed up to the top side, though, and Skeeto's tanking this one up. Does take down Clion in the meantime, but could trade his own life away. His House is here, and Frost Strike picks up his first kill of the game, and he's hanging around. Damage wants this kill on Kiari, and Beanie should be the one to clean it up here. Goes in over the wall, but the AD shield buys a little bit more time. Beanie takes down Kiari in the meantime, and it is going to be a 2-4-1 at the moment in favor of FURIA.
oh, that's just not fair. Furia paid off Shelly, man. Shelly just caught Kiari in there, and it felt like Shelly was just on the side of Furia. That's absolutely brutal. But neither side's letting this go. They're gonna continue poking around here.
And they're actually just going to straight up continue team fighting with Skeeto
Keto.
teleporting in here. We see the damage being able to pop in and really enable the rest of his team's damage. Skeeto trying to stay alive with the Cold and Meek does manage to, and once again for you, now make this a 3-4-1. It feels like they've really recruited Shelly to, what's it called? Like they're trying to match the 10-man roster of Rensga here.
Yeah. Rensga picked up 5 other players, and Furia just picked up Shelly. And the start of this was really scary too, because that spear landing, the flashes to match were absolutely beautiful. And then this is where the problem lies, because Annie rotates first. Look at House; he's still in the mid lane. And yes, the sombrero came out, but that was more Kiari's positioning, being
Mm-hmm.
able to get out of range there. Great mechanical play, but the macro, they're just not quite together as a team. And they find Keto, great, but again, they paid the 6 man and Shelly. You can see Kiari. Where's he gonna go? He's collapsed on. He has full vision. He knows he's done. And once Kiari's done, the numbers advantage just swings the way of Furia.
Yeah, that was really, really rough there because I felt like it should have ended at the 1-for-1, but then it turns into
Flank.
this here with Skeeto on the flank. You've got to respect it as the rest of Furia, and you just leave House to die.
Yeah, I mean, there's no choice. It just felt like people just kept getting sort of corralled into really bad positions from Rensga. And I want to point out that Skeeto went in 1v3 without Dominus. He did not have the ultimate. What you see was what you got. And they probably could have killed Skeeto if they turned on him properly. But the problem is that when you get a crocodile just popping out of the fog of war there, your first reaction is to flee. You don't think to fight it necessarily. You just don't want to get bitten. And that's going to cost them. And Shelly, oh my goodness, is still alive. Furia didn't actually pick it up.
Still there, still hanging out, still ready to fight. I fully expect we're going to see more attention given over there as damage still has not gone back to the bot lane. And if we take a look at the mini-map, we're going to see that Beanie isn't there either. Instead, taking the fight right to Kiari up a level. But the Rift Herald is the objective that they want right now. They've already got the dragon.
Okay, that's a 1v1, a level up, and Kiari lost that. That is amazing. I mean, think back to game one. BRTT's Samira did not look like it could 1v1 anything on the map. Even a support, I'm not 100% sure he could have finished it fast enough. But here in this game, Beanie with this Samira, it's like day and night. And because they punished Kiari, they're looking to try and punish Keto as well now.
Yeah, unfortunately, very nice warding from him and not quite fast enough on the trigger are Rensga to be able to find a pick in the bot side. And it means they give over top lane pressure and Rift Herald basically for free right now, getting themselves a, oh, what's that called? The thing, dragon.
Mountain
Where,
Drake.
no, but when you give it to somebody, a consolation dragon.
Yeah, because especially I think with with their particular composition as well, like the only one who's really going to enjoy it is maybe Alistar. Everybody else is like, resistances, what are those? We only do damage. And it's not an Inferno Drake. It will be an Inferno Soul, though, and they're going to brute force into house here.
So yeah, speaking of damage, that is a lot of it just
Ooh.
dumped into house. That is the pick comp of your nightmares as damage manages to make that pick happen with a nicely placed solar flare.
Yeah, normally when we say that's a lot of damage being dumped, we mean that, your health bar is disappearing. In this case, when we said that's a lot of damage being dumped, that was damage just all inning onto House there. And House just no way out because when damage is on Leona and he's on top of you, that's a lot of CC. And they can continue to do that because the only person who brought cleanse was Trigo. And the one person who hasn't been facing damage is Trigo.
Yeah, I'm actually curious to see when the game becomes about him. He's got 115 CS. He's not behind by any means, but the game is just totally like passing him by. It's more of happening to Trigo than it is that he's playing. And you're going to start to feel like that as Furia as well if Rensga continue to scale up. Eventually, the game will start happening to you. And Furia need to be the ones that stay in control of the game because right now, yes, you're in control of the game, but you have to Lee Renekton. Eventually, that's going to fall off a little bit in comparison to people like Victor Camille.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair though, Nidalee does fall off harder than Talia, so they're not necessarily in the worst case scenario. And so far, they've been making really good on the pressure that Skeeto has been able to put down. Again, they're sending multiple members here, but those two aren't sufficient. Froststrike's trying to run his way up there. I'm not sure Froststrike will get there in time.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. Will manage to pick up the kill participation though, so grabs a little bit more gold in his pocket. In fact, follow with the global pressure that wasn't able to make it in time to defend his top laner, and they don't really get
Mhm.
anything for it.
Yep, you get a kill. You'll get some turret damage at least there. So it's kind of important also because they need to try and get Skeeto down to the point where Kiari can 1v1 him comfortably because that is how Kiari's building. That's how they want to play is that split push win con here with that Camille. So if they can't even do that, they're getting themselves in a lot of problems. But what's scary to me is that Skeeto just picked up his core item, Gore Drinker. And Renekton
Mm.
is one of the single biggest abusers of that item here. And now that he's got that, I don't think Kiari can get him. Next time they throw three people in, that's just more health for that crocodile.
You know, I hadn't even considered it, and I know that sounds dumb, but when I looked at it, I was like, this is just the matchup. It's Renekton into Camille, and Camille will eventually win that. But Gore Drinker actually makes Renekton a way better team fighter than he has any right being. And with Trinity Force picked up on the other side of this, you're right. I see this being a very Skeeto favored time right now.
Yeah, this is not the divine thunder that you normally expect to see, out of a Camille against the likes of a Renekton. Kiari's going for burst. So
Hmm.
what that makes me wonder is has Kiari given up on trying to 1v1 and maybe they're looking for the assassination? Because if you look at Furia's composition, a lot of the damage that will be coming out in these team fights, it's Beanie, Follow, and Annie. And Follow and Annie are front loaded burst. If you kill Beanie and you survive the initial burst, you guys are probably going to be okay for the team fight. So maybe you change your priorities. You target that Samara, who hasn't shown themselves to be quite that scary in CBLOL so far, but we've
Hmm.
also not seen a full 5v5 team fight that's gone off properly either.
Yeah, there's not that much peel for her though, so I like maybe the shift in priorities, or the signal of shift in priorities, because you're still going to be buying space for your consistent damage sources as well. It's not just shutting down Beanie, but you're buying a lot of time for House and Trigo, where they aren't going to have people like damage on top of them, or maybe even Skeeto if Skeeto decides that Beanie being shut down is enough of a problem.
Yeah, and while Furia's looking really comfortable right now, the 3,500 gold lead, they've been making a lot of good plays. I want to look at Rensga as well, because I feel like their composition has not shown their strength. They focused early game on the Camille, somewhat as expected with the Nidalee here, but they've got some really solid team fighting available to them as well. And more notably, we've not seen Trigo really pop into these fights yet. You mentioned he's been doing pretty well for himself farm-wise here. So I want to see him rotating with the team and maybe with Trigo added to the picture, they will have enough damage to start finding some picks. And if they get a couple of picks, suddenly I think Rensga looks a lot stronger once they start getting some sort of priority in this game.
He's got the Gale Force added to his inventory now, so yeah, I'd like to see it. But what's concerning me right now is Kiari's in the top lane. You're putting both of your side lane champions, to me, in the top lane here, and this isn't the end of game one. This is a totally even game at the moment, so you're giving up a lot of map pressure, and you can see the wave crashing in the bot lane. You get a top tower for it, but I'm not sure it's worth it.
Yeah, especially since Dragon's about to come up as well once again here. It is the Inferno, but it looks like they might have caught damage this time.
Yeah, Cleanse Gale Force gets burned off of Beanie, or yeah, off of Beanie, but now gets to turn around with the ultimate there. Unfortunately, not enough damage coming out at the tail end of that will mean that FURIA get first rotation onto the Dragon without really breaking a sweat.
Mhm. Signs of life here, but as you mentioned, it does cost them a lot. They don't lose the turret, which is great, but they do lose the dragon. And like we said, these teams, when you've got so much damage on your team, Infernals are super, super valuable as well. You can continue stacking them up. And I'm just trying to think about the lane assignments. Who do you send where? Because no one can handle Beanie in the 1v1, it feels like right now. I think House maybe might be able to, but
Yeah.
he's sitting on a Ludens and Tier. We're not seeing, the Lich Bane quite yet. Maybe even the Manamune potentially coming through for the Victor as well. Because now they did change it. It does proc off spells once again here. AP damage users can proc it. So that has come back for Victor. Kiari definitely can't handle Beanie. We've already seen Beanie push him out. So who do they really send to try and deal with the I never thought I'd say this, but the ADC split push.
I know it feels wrong to say
Yeah.
already. I feel like I need to wash my mouth out with soap, and I'm really not sure what it is either. I'm on the same page as you though that I see it more of being housed as your potential. So once he maybe hits that item break point, if you can survive up until such a point without losing too much, that is your way to shut down Beanie. And eventually Beanie is going to have to start grouping up because your options are either match him with House or force a team fight somewhere else.
Yeah, and even if you force a team fight somewhere else, that's an issue as well. Because if House is matching him, your team fight is much, much, much weaker here. I mean,
Mhm.
sure, Jin does a lot of damage, but it's not the same, as a Chaos Storm. And who they're again having to send two solo laners to deal with the split push.
We are learning, however, that Skeeto can 1v1 Kiari. Unfortunately, can't 1v2 Kiari and House, so putting them in the same lane, all of a sudden, not as bad of an idea. They do get a pick here, but once again, check out the top side. Samira split pushing alone is going to be
Oh.
able to get XP for free. We'll see if they can answer back in the mid lane. They do
Oh.
find Clion there with the Weaver's Wall. The split is up, but the flash forward knock up does find two and stall this out for a little bit. Teleport into the back line, though. Kiari finds Annie and just gets blown up there. They trade it for the Alistar, but now Beanie's in trouble as well. It's got the double melee on him. How's kiting out the Inferno trigger there? Beanie gets flashed on by Kiari to finish him off, and now Trigo picks up the root with House finishing it off. The ace comes in for Kiari. They get the mid lane push, and now they can turn onto the Baron as well. Rensga dance around that fight.
New sheriff is in town, and Rensga coming in hot here. The double TP flank was absolutely beautiful, and just in time to pick up the freshly spawned Baron as well. Skeeto is gonna try and push this off, but again, no Dominus. If they just play this right, they can turn and burn him down instead.
They don't trust it though. The flash forward into stun might spell differently. House takes down Skeeto. Now Annie flashing forward doesn't quite have the ultimate available though, so that means the damage isn't quite there. They do manage to stop the Baron, but it's such a large cost.
This is why I love CBLOL. The willingness of teams to throw in. This fight was actually great. The Weaver's Wall to separate just one member was absolutely amazing. But the problem is, it's Unbreakable Will Alistar. Good luck. You do kill him, but at what cost? They burn almost everything, and you can see Trigo untouched. Kiari House barely untouched. Most of the damage came from Skeeto in that bot lane fight, and once the damage is in and there's no way to kill them, they can just clean house. The rotation to Baron after that, great call as well. And Skeeto, not having as great a game as you might want to see from your brand new Chilean import.
No, he hasn't really been able to be unlocked in the same way because of that collapse. It feels bad. He's throwing his body there, trying to stop them taking the Baron, and fortunately that does work out for them. The one that I'm really hurting for though is my boy Beanie. I that felt really rough to watch an Inferno trigger just be basically ignored.
Yeah, and I mean that's kind of one of the things about Samira was that she did kind of get tuned a little bit during the off season, and that's why she's no longer considered like top ADC necessarily. But I've little doubt that Beanie will continue to scale up in terms of damage. So far, just sitting on the Immortal Shield Bow and the Collector, but you know, I'm expecting maybe a Bloodthirster or an Infinity Edge. Either of those items would help a
Yeah.
lot with the damage once that does get picked up. And Once again, Skeeto getting picked on.
Yeah, panning back to another fight in the top lane. Should be taken down here by the Nidalee. Froststrike takes one more turret shot, and the rotation is in, so this could cost Rensga big damage. At least should be able to lock this down. The Weaver's Wall also connecting is going to find him, and in the meantime, off screen, Annie manages to pick up the shutdown onto the Camille. Follow is the next target though. Doesn't get rooted up. House is on his tail though, shutting him down. Throws down the Chaos Storm to try and find the kill here. Follow's just buying time, and this is a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, but they bought so much time, and Damage could look for the reinitiate. Solar Flare is available here. The rest of the team
Oh
is
my
here.
god. He flashes forward past the head, but now, all of a sudden, your mid laner is gone. The Inferno Trigger gets pulled, and you've lost your support as well. Beanie's on the hunt for another kill, has the red buff to slow him down, and Trigo is dead here. FURIA clap back.
No damage to you. Beanie heard you, and Beanie disagrees. The exhaust coming down, and Beanie's just shredding right through. Anyways, Follow buying so much time. The Chilean import maybe not so great, but Follow, the Argentinian import, making a huge move here in that bot side. And after just getting ace, they fire back. And if not for the fact that Chiari, had respawned, that would have been yet another ace for them.
I'm so impressed at their ability to pull back that fight and really answer Rensga in a way where I didn't expect them to be able to because of their lack of global pressure. But finding the rotations, damage honestly has been standing out this game.
Mhm. And that was, one of the things that we were talking about on a team filled with a lot of new faces here. Who's really going to stand out from Furia? And, we're talking about Annie and Damage as sort of the holdovers from the older roster. Both of them have been absolutely huge. 5-1 and 5 for Annie means that it's almost like it's 92% kill participation. It's huge from Annie here to be able to be the one making plays, and Damage, has also been helping Beanie a lot, really setting up a lot of these really good fights uh, for Beanie, and it's working out really well because we're already starting to see the damage coming through for that Samira, and that was even without that Bloodthirster Infinity Edge that we're expecting to see come out at some point here.
It is a high barrier of execution, though, and that's where I'll caution optimism. Is very much that it's difficult for Furia to pull off a fight. They do need a lot of things to go right. They need damage to find the setup. They need Annie to pump in the damage, which sounds weird after that, but they need so many things to line up so that Beanie can pop off. And Beanie is the one that needs to be popping off every fight. Maybe you get an on fight where Skeeto is doing really well, but it's not going to be your victory condition.
It's definitely still relying heavily on Beanie to finish and clean up the fight. It's got to be the janitor and clean up here, but the team is setting up Beanie quite well. The thing though is that for all that we're praising Furia, and Furia has just won, the last team fight and had a good early game. Rensga is not out of the picture by any means. They've been consistently down for most of this game, but they're not playing like they're down gold. They're picking a lot of aggressive fights. Chiari is still putting a ton of pressure in that lane against Skeeto. It's been working, and now they have to do something. The teleport coming in from Chiari to match this Baron.
This is real risky here. The Baron falls to... Ooh, there we go. Furia picks it up. And now Damage, still alive, tries to drop the Solar Flare. Doesn't quite find it. Beanie's being kited out by House, but does manage to pull the Inferno Trigger, picking up 2 kills there. And Furia not only get the Baron, but now get an even fight as well. So same amount to be played with here, especially with Skeeto maintaining the Baron.
That seems to be the story of today so far, that, sneaking Barons away is the way things are going. I think teams are underestimating how much damage gets put out because the Baron gets stolen away. Sure, you kill 2 members on the side of Furia, so that's 2 less members with the Baron buff, but those aren't your split pushers anyways. It's going to be split pushing. He still has it, and they managed to come out fairly okay. It wasn't the cleanest, but they did get it. And you can see they realize it late because they didn't have quite enough vision there. They attempt the
Oh,
steal, but Froststrike actually got caught outside the pit, never made it in. So really, really good from them. They do manage to clean out damage on the back end, but Beanie's, look at that. That's what happens when you don't have the exhaust on Beanie. Beanie actually does a lot of damage. We just didn't see it before because of the exhausts.
yeah, wisely done from Beanie as well. I was thinking that he was going to try and finish off House there. Knows where the actual targets lie, where he can pull back this team fight, not get kited out. Manages to pick up the kill onto Froststrike, and even fight here does lead us into the next real neutral objective, which is the dragon, because Furia silently have found themselves at soul point, and if they can make the most of this Baron, they might just earn themselves a free soul.
and an Inferno Soul, no less. You're on a team on two teams that would love to stack damage here. It's going to be really, really dicey. We've already seen How's Frost Strike pop. We talked about the lack of tankiness for Rensga in the beginning. It's coming to bite them a little bit at this point in the game when everybody seems to start doing a ton of damage. But they've got to play base defense right now. And Chiari, he's not interested. Chiari is still split pushing, doesn't care that his base is falling apart.
And FURIA are going to force this issue. Nice Weaver as well there, cuts off the defense, and starting things off with a Jin ult is not exactly what you want to do. You're going to lose your inhibitor for this at the very least, and no damage has been dealt off of that. Now Frost Strike should be going down here. Nice bop from Clion, buys time, but not quite enough, and that's going to be FURIA cleaning up a single kill. Damage flashing forward, wants to finish off the game right now. Clion drops to half HP, and he gets exhausted. Beanie dashes forward, doesn't find a kill just yet. Clion's still quite low. Chaos Storm doesn't find damage, and FURIA will end up backing off here. How's looking for the poke, is not going to be able to make this work, but a teleport could turn this around if FURIA want to continue fighting. Feels like more of a safety dance move.
And he was like, "Here, we can go." And the rest of the team's like, "No, we
No,
out."
no, 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 no.
And he was just zipping back. But the dragon has spawned, and now Chiari might have to walk into this blind there. If they turn the corner at the wrong timing, this could be very, very bad. But they have to fight this. Frost Strike's almost back up, but won't be there in time to contest the dragon.
And he gets caught out here. There we go. Finally finishes it off. It wasn't going to be a catch out if not, but Beanie also chunked out as well. Is going to make this fight rather hard. Frost Strike is back and available. Hightailing it to this dragon, but being burned down by the Inferno trigger is not going to do you any favors. FURIA managed to get the soul here, and Skeeto escaping by the skin of his teeth is going to be basically all coming up for you.
That was kind of riskier than it looked. The Ocean Drake that they picked up actually came in pretty big for them, was ticking away and healing up damage and follow there a little bit, who were getting kind of low after that initial fight. But hey, it's worth it trading one for the side of Soul. Well, worth it for everybody except for Annie. Annie probably not very happy that he teleported right in to die in that bot lane fight there. And Furia slowly accruing bigger and bigger advantages here. That soul is going to stick with them for the rest of the game here. So the next big fight they have, which might be around Baron, actually CBLOL, who am I kidding? It's probably not going to be around Baron. That's 2 minutes before that happens. But whenever that next fight breaks out, it's going to be really tough for Rensga, and they need to start bursting down their priority targets quicker.
Yeah, and it's going to be tough to do, but I want to see this team that is, like we say, a relative unknown be able to find these moments of synergy or moments of coordination where they can make these coordinated plays work out, because yeah, losing CBLOL game one isn't the worst thing that can happen to you. Like you say, the end of season standings often end up being totally different from what we see on day one. But to show the early signs of synergy, to be able to find each other in the moments where it matters most during the game, that's what really brings me hope for a roster.
For sure. I don't want to count Rensga out yet because I feel like we talked about them as a coin flip team. They've got one last coin to flip right here, right now. They are being forced back, but we already seen they can win team fights from a huge deficit. 5K down is bigger than ever. But Chiari's got teleport. We've got one last big team fight, I feel like, which will decide the fate of the game. If Furia wins this, they win the game. But if Rensga wins this, maybe they can turn things around.
I'm just watching the poke game there as Annie is dancing around. That's what really got my eye. The fancy feet on the Oriana right now. You're pushing with no Baron here, but you're still doing quite well. Problem is Chiari answering back in the top side here is not only getting a lot of gold, but even pressuring the tier 2 tower, and that's going to force the response from Skeeto.
Hold Skeeto away right now. If they do want to perhaps look for a force here, they could. Instead, they're actually walking this one in. They might have cut off Furia. They can look to collapse on Furia from behind here, and Baron is up, so they probably don't want to focus too hard onto Skeeto.
Yeah, Chiari's just going for this. He's got the
Well,
lockdown onto Beanie available. Doesn't want to dive into everybody just yet, though, and they don't even force out the teleports from Skeeto. The lack of commitment there. I don't want to say costs Rensga, but that was an opportunity.
yeah, this is not really characteristic of CBLOL. We saw Pain Gaming this morning struggle, like not wanting to commit either, and now Renska's is struggling a little bit. Not what I was expecting from that big engage, commit, coin flip team. And again, Baron's getting shredded down. Less than half health already.
Okay, you've got to call this, but once again, that Weaver's Wall just buys so much time, and you get away with the Baron. We're going to get the jump back on Chiari as well, and if this guy goes down, that is a lot of your team fight hopes. No lockdown now for Beanie and RNS. They've got to run, but the red buff is here, and Beanie is chasing down Clion. Follow as well. Has the bot back available in just a moment. Flashes forward for it, and does get responded to by Clion, but trades his life away for the life of Zitty Carry. Follow does go down in trade. House burns the ultimate to make it happen, but FURIA, now they're marching down your mid lane. How do you stop them?
You can't, unfortunately, at this time. You're gonna lose at least, one turret, probably two, and maybe an even inhibitor to boot as well. Because who's gonna stop this? If Trigo steps up, he could die. Same with Frost Strike, same with House as well. The fact that they caught Follow is probably the only saving grace, because Follow is the biggest threat to them, but damage is not far behind. And yep, there you go. The turrets and the inhibitors. It's 5 seconds before Chiari and Clion come back up.
Damage has flash, so if he sees it, he's going for it. How is actually forced to use his own there as teleport is being channeled. Rensga want to clean this up. They think it's an overextension. Chiari goes in, doesn't find the stun, instead focuses on Skiddo. Damage flashing forward, gets the stun onto Chiari this time. It gets pulled back in. Annie finds the pull and finishes off Chiari. Now FURIA get to stay around should they want to. Annie cleaning out the waves here is just going to keep the pressure up.
Definitely an overextension, but not by Furia there.
Yeah.
Chiari. And I feel like we've seen this a lot from Skiddo and Chiari, both these top laners playing more aggressively than perhaps they ought to so far. And it's definitely costing both sides a little bit. Chiari, 7 deaths now. We saw Keto getting picked on repeatedly. And the fact that despite being picked on, it's Chiari who has more deaths. That's not a positive sign. Elder Drake now potentially on the cards. 1 minute. I don't even think Furia needs that Elder Drake, but should they struggle to finish the game here, they can always just fall back on there because they know that they win fights on open ground here. And if they pick up an extra execution in their kit, it's just going to be nasty, combining an Inferno Soul with an Elder Drake.
As much as FURIA don't need the Elder Drake, I need the Elder Drake. I want to see the Inferno Trigger, Elder Drake, multiple explosion game. FURIA, they don't want to give it to me. They're running down into the base here and do catch out Chiari. Nice Zanyas will buy him a little bit of time, but Clion, once again, will actually not die, but be chunked out for his sins. Not able to put the CC down there. The Weaver's Wall interrupts the fight, and it seems like they've caught out House, who disappears. FURIA pick up a single kill for themselves, and maybe even the turret right now, as there's only one turret remaining between them and the Nexus. Skiddo looking for the stun, doesn't find it just yet, and FURIA, they are choking you out here. You can see Annie fishing around for damage, but the base is just going down. Trigo flashing over. Actually, looks like he's going to finish off Annie here, but that's all you get. It's the consolation prize because the game is over, and FURIA managed to outmaneuver Rensga in the first